Okay, in this video we're going to go over omoplata and triangle. Let's go ahead and look at the video real quick. Alright, in this first clip here, what he's doing over here to the side is he's covering the arm. So the guy on bottom is covering the arm, and you noticed we have a hand that's over here. As soon as it touches the mat, that's when you can set up omoplata. So we have a hand here in the center, so let's just discuss a couple of different submissions you can do from guard, and there are hundreds of submissions that you can do from guard, but here are some of the most basic ones. With this arm being planted here, he could go for arm bar, he could go for triangle, which we'll talk later about in this video. But when the hands are planted over on the side, you can either roll out for a Kimura, you can roll out for a guillotine, but if you want to stay on your back, you can roll over to omoplata. So this is omoplata. You've got to cover the arm first, and you can't really see it from this angle, but there are other angles here. And then he's going to take this leg on the same side as the arm he covered, and he's going to bring this up over his shoulder. This is going to allow him to roll out to the side. So let's go ahead and watch the video here. So he's covered the arm, and now he's rolling over. So he's brought this leg over. Omoplata can be used as a way to escape the bottom position. It can be used as a submission. It can also be used to lock the opponent down so that you can strike. So he's rolled out. He's perpendicular. Notice here the guy on top is going in one direction, and the guy on bottom is going in the other direction. And that's what you want to do. You have to kind of roll out to the side. And there are other submissions you could set up from here. But he's using omoplata right now as a form of submission. But you could also use it as an escape. So he's rolled out to the side. You notice here when he brought that leg over, he dropped this heel to the floor first, and then he's going to bring his legs off to the side. One important note, this arm is still trapped behind here. If he had, and of course he's new to this skill, he's a student in class, he would bring this arm immediately as he rolled up from the bottom. He should have brought this arm across and hooked it in. He's eventually going to do it, but it's a new skill to him, so he's doing it a little late. Ideally, as soon as he rolls out, he wants to drag this arm up to the side and hook it underneath the armpit, which is he's about to do right now. So he rolls out to the side, drops the heel to the floor, and that's going to bring this person down. Now, ideally, he should have let go of this arm a long time ago and placed, as soon as he started to roll up the side of the body, place his arm underneath the armpit. But again, new to the skill. It's not saying that he won't be successful on the skill, but if he can change this, and as soon as he rolls out to the side, start reaching for the armpit and just forget about trapping the arm. Once you cover it with this leg, forget about trapping it. It's trapped. And start thinking about taking this arm underneath the armpit. That will improve the skill and reduce the chance that this individual is going to escape. So he rolls out to the side. Now he's going to grab the armpit. So right here, as soon as this leg covers and you've got this guy's head going towards the ground, the guy on top is, you've got this leg over his arm and his head is going towards the mat, you need to start reaching here. So forget about covering this arm. It's covered. And if you start reaching, you're going to cover it with your own arm. So he needs to start reaching here. Let go of that arm and start reaching towards the armpit. And so as he rolls up to the side, he needs to have already reached up to the armpit, just in case that guy tries to flip out. So that's the way to escape. Let me rewind that so that I can explain that real quick on why it's so important to reach over to that armpit. Alright, so once we've gotten to this point here, we need to start reaching, because what this guy can do that's on top is just jump out. He can completely flip over and get out of this submission. So he would just duck his head under and roll his hips over, and he could escape that. But if you're already reaching for the armpit, your arm is going to be across his body, so if he tries to flip his hips over, your arm would block it. So that would definitely make this skill more likely to succeed if the guy on bottom would start reaching for the armpit. So let's go ahead and watch the rest of this. He locks him down to the ground, and at this point, not only could it's essentially like doing a Kimura, but you're using your legs. He could punch with his free arm if he wanted to, or like he's doing, he can reach up and really start to sink this, sink his hips forward, and that would take the individual on bottom, it would take his palm to the back of his head like you would do with Kimura. So let's go ahead and watch this here. So he sinks it in. So he rolls the leg over. He needs to start reaching at that point so that the guy on top could not flip out. All right, so the next one we're going to talk about is triangle. So triangle is a really good choke, and if you can master it, if you have long legs, this is a perfect submission from the bottom. This is actually one of my favorite submissions. Typically, once it's locked in, individuals have a difficult time getting out. So what the guy on bottom has done here is he's pushed this guy's arms back. That allows him to slide this leg up to the neck. So once you get one leg into the neck, you want to lock your ankle down into the bend of the knee on this side. But you don't want to stay perfectly parallel with the guy on top. So you notice how he's kind of sliding out here, getting perpendicular. And that allows you to really sink in the choke, especially if this guy's got big, broad shoulders. The more you slide out and get perpendicular to the guy on top, the easier it is to lock this choke in. So let's go ahead and watch this real quick. So he locks this down. He's going to lock his ankle down into this leg. He's holding onto this arm because you can actually transition to armbar from here. There's several different things you could do. If this guy would try to pin his palm to the ground to keep this space open over here, you could roll over to Omaplata, the skill that we just did. So there's several different submissions you can transition to here. That's the reason I love triangle so much, is I call it a hub submission. So think of a hub of a wheel and it has spokes coming off of it. Well, the hub would be the triangle, and those individual spokes would be submissions that you can do from this position. So let's go ahead and watch this. And then he locks it down. He's sinking his hips up. Now, there are other elements of the skill, but I'm just giving you the beginning one. So he's pushed this arm back. That allows him to slide this leg into the neck. He's going to lock this heel down, and it makes a little triangle here. So he's making a little triangle with his legs. Now, this is what I was talking about earlier. If this guy tried to plant this palm on the ground to open up this side so the choke wouldn't sink in, making it hard for the guy on bottom to lock his legs together, the guy on bottom could roll to Omaplata, the skill we just talked about. So he locks it in. See how perpendicular he is? This guy's going in this direction here. The guy on bottom is going in another direction, not parallel, but perpendicular. And that allows him to lock these legs together and to sink the hips up. So there's one thing that we're leaving out, but he's going to do that at the end of the skill, and that is to reach up and grab the back of the attacker's head. And that really, as you sink your hips up, you pull down on the back of the head, and that sinks that choke in nicely. What he's doing here is he's reaching under and grabbing the leg to help get himself perpendicular. That would also help if this guy tries to stand up and the guy on bottom is holding the inside of his leg. It'll sweep his leg out, and he won't be able to pick you up and slam you. And it really helps sink that choke in. So he's reached up, placed the choke in. See how he's reaching over here to the leg. Ideally, he should reach to the inside of it, and that would, if this guy tried to stand up, it would scoop this leg out. So let's go ahead and watch here. So he scoops to the inside right here. That's what I was talking about. So he's got the choke locked in. He is perfectly perpendicular. This is a good angle for triangle. And he's also scooped this leg. So if this guy tries to pick him up and slam him, it's going to be a bad day, because what's going to happen is as he tries to stand up, he's going to sweep his own leg. He's going to use his own force to sweep his own leg, and he's going to roll over and be in a really bad spot. So he doesn't even try. So he's lock in the triangle, switch out, he's perpendicular, pushes that arm back, scoops the leg here just in case. That also, even if the guy doesn't try to stand up, that'll still give you a little handle to get perpendicular. You could scoop the arm, like if this guy's trying to punch with this arm, instead of scooping the inside of the leg, you can scoop the inside of this arm with your free arm, and that will, you'll be on the back of his tricep. He won't be able to draw back as effectively and punch you. Now, he might get a few rabbit shots in, but he's not going to have the punching power to knock you out. So if you scoop that arm instead, that's if they start to try to punch you. But if they try to slam you, scoop the inside of the leg. So right here, he's reaching up on the back of his head, and he's going to pull down as he squeezes with his legs, and he's going to sink his hips up. And if he wanted to, he could snag an arm bar right here, and that's a good tight arm bar. Here's the only mistake on that arm bar. Let me go back to that real quick. The only mistake on that arm bar, it'll take just a second. This is something he'll want to correct, is he wants to keep these legs really bent. So he wants to kind of pin his head in between his hamstring and his calf muscle. So he wants to bend this leg. See how this one's starting to bend? You really want to bend that a lot more so that if he tries to yank his arm out, he can't. He's stuck in there. Or if he tries to pick you up and slam you. To defend this arm bar, he really needs to pull down on the elbow and draw it out. So it would be a much tighter and more successful arm bar. It would also keep it off his groin because it would pinch his hamstrings together if he would bend these legs and pin this guy's head in between his hamstring and calf muscle. But other than that, pretty good skill. So like I said, triangle is probably one of my favorite because you can transition to so many submissions. And once you get it locked in, most people will have a limited amount of time because they're already struggling, so they don't have much oxygen in the bloodstream to begin with. And when you cut off their airway and sink in that choke and cut off the blood supply to the brain, they go out really fast, much faster than they normally would in practice. So this is a great skill to have. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.